I sneaked into Messi's dad's hotel for a meeting with him. And I said, we want your son. But then obviously he'd had offers from Saudi, he'd had offers to go back to Barcelona. It was then down to him to decide. I remember Victoria being on tour with the Spice Girls without obviously telling anyone. And I flew over to see Victoria one night. I'm on the way back to Manchester, just waiting to board. And the gaffer walks in.
You're joking.
On the same flight.
That's unlucky, isn't it?
It was, yeah.
Was he at the concert as well?
You always used to call me the Flash Cockney.
I'd rather be the Flash Cockney, would you?
I just felt at that point he would either want me in or you in.
Quite surprising you got rid of me and not you.
Everybody goes on about Cantona, but this man here...
You're too kind.
All he means is lads.
I'm delighted to welcome an old teammate of mine, David Beckham, and yeah, you've been up to a lot recently. You've obviously brought Messi to Miami. You're shooting a documentary film that's coming out next week. But just talk to us about Miami first, because I think bringing Messi to the club has captured the imagination of everyone in the world.
Yeah, to be honest, obviously, you know, when I started this journey 10 years ago, announcing that I was starting a team in Miami, my vision was always to bring the best players. Now, I suppose as an owner of a team, you always want to bring the best players, but the chance of bringing the best players is difficult and always challenging. But then I sneaked into Messi's dad's hotel about 4 years ago in Barcelona for a meeting with him. And obviously at that point, you know, we wasn't ready to bring him and he wasn't ready to come, but I turned around to his dad and said, we want your son. We want him to come to Miami when he's ready. And if that's a possibility, we continued the conversations and with my partners, Jorge Mas and Jose. And we just worked on it for about 4 years. And then when he was at PSG, we then saw an opportunity that he was either going to go back to Barcelona, but then all of a sudden everything aligned. And then we were still having the conversations, and but to bring someone like him to the club, we knew it would change the club, and we knew it would change the league and the sport. But it's beyond that, you know. It's beyond that. What he does on the pitch, what he does off the pitch, you know, for the young kids, you know, to bring someone like him is the dream. And also Jordi Alba and Busquets, Sergio. But to bring Leo, he's changed everything. You know, the academy kids now have got someone else to look up to that has done everything, won everything, and he's teaching them, which is amazing. You know, the other day it was a funny interview from one of the academy kids who's doing really well, and they turned around to him and said, you know, what's the best bit of advice Leo's given you so far? And he said, to walk more. He was like, he told me to walk more in the game. He said, because you see more. So, you know, it's already started. So it's already started with the good that he does. It's incredible.
You know, we've seen what he's done, bringing so much joy. He looks amazing every single game. When was the moment, and what was it like, the moment when he said, yep, I'm there, I'm coming?
I think it was actually more emotional than it should have been, just because for the last 10 years to try and get this team up and running in Miami, there's been so many obstacles, so many challenges, and sometimes it looked like it weren't going to happen, and then obviously everything came together once I found the right partners in Miami. But the moment I was actually in Japan, the morning that I found out that he was coming, his dad had called us that week and said Leo's going to make an announcement, and then obviously 2 days out they was like, okay, in the next 2 or 3 days he's going to come out and say something. So we were kind of just waiting, and I was in Japan working, and it was 5 o'clock in the morning, the kids are in bed, Victoria's still sleeping, and my phone is like going mad because I'd forgot to turn it on silent. So Victoria's like telling me to turn it off. So I pick it up and I saw a barrage of like messages, and it was just, he'd come out and done his interview. But we always obviously wanted him to make a decision based on, you know, he wanted to live there with his family, wanted to still win and play football in the way he plays it. But we wanted him to announce it in his way. And he literally was sat in a hotel room with his mate filming and saying that he's coming to Miami. So for us, it was an unbelievable. I was very emotional about it because it's taken a lot of like hard work to get here.
So the contracts were agreed months before, obviously, and he was just deciding.
No, well, we'd kind of
He hadn't tapped him up.
He hadn't tapped him up.
I'm getting to the bottom.
I'm trying to think about
Tapped his dad up. He ain't tapped him up.
trying to think about what I'm allowed to say.
All that was already in place.
Yeah, with the offer, we'd made the offer,
Right.
but then obviously he'd had offers from Saudi, he'd had offers obviously to go back to Barcelona, and the Barcelona one kind of really worried me because obviously it pulls on the heartstrings for him. He never really got to say a proper goodbye at Barcelona, so that was the one that really worried me. But then, you know, it was then down to him to decide, and so that was...
I think most of us here think he's, you know, one of the best players we've ever seen, maybe the best. I mean, has he gone up in your estimation, you know, watching him in the flesh, seeing him day in, day out?
I mean, I played against him obviously for PSG, and I played against him for Real Madrid at Barcelona, and obviously he was unbelievable then, but it's not until you physically see him and you sat there and you're watching him and every move that he does, and he never gives the ball away. He's unbelievable for the young kids. He's great with the young kids. And watching Leo in training, you know, when he first joined, when he arrived in Miami and he was training, I was there for the first 5 weeks when he first arrived. And I was in the training ground 7 a.m. every morning just to watch him. And I'm 48 years old, so to just watch him do what he does, train the way he does, prepare the way, it's just different.
What makes him like so special? Like, what's that one thing when you're watching him and you're like, why is he the best player?
Do you know, I don't know. I mean, we all grew up in an era of like, you know, you have to run and chase and then you watch him.
That's still okay with Bex. You just have to run.
I made a career on that.
Find a club, yeah.
But he's clever. He's so like his brain works in different ways. You know, he sees things that other players just don't see for 5 minutes after that, and it's just amazing to watch. So literally everything. He never gives, like I said, never gives the ball away. His work ethic is still there. You know, he won the World Cup last year, and he still is as hungry as he was when he was a young kid. So it's amazing.
Your journey to sign Messi was a little bit like mine to get Roy to come to stick to football. It took about 4 years. But just a final question on Messi. What is he like as a person? Obviously, I've seen pictures of you out with him, sort of like. Does he? I'm thinking simple things like, does he have a glass of wine? Does he have a beer or something? Does he do normal things?
Yeah, he's
a great lad, is he? Oh, great lad.
First in, last out.
To be fair, he is. Yeah, he is. But apart from that, he's so humble. He is really humble. You know, it's just the normal things that we all think that's how it should be. You know, this is someone that, you know, especially in Miami, he's not left alone. You know, he's chased everywhere, he's followed everywhere. There's thousands of people every single day at the training ground just to watch him get in his car and leave and drive down the road. But from the moment he landed in Miami, he drives himself to the supermarket, does his shopping, goes home, and people are shocked at that. But that is him. He's humble, he's hardworking, he's got a great family, his wife's amazing, the kids are amazing. He's just a normal guy with an unbelievable talent.
How do you construct a deal as an owner for a player like that to come to your club? How do you even think to start? I mean, I'm just thinking at like Salford level where you're trying to get a player on a couple of grand a week, but how do you bring that together?
There was a lot of moving parts, obviously. A lot of people had to help us with it. You know, obviously when I moved to LA, you know, there was different contracts put in. You know, I was obviously allowed to buy a team, you know, at that point, which I don't think they'll ever do again. Then obviously Apple were involved and Adidas were involved, so he's got different contracts. So it's, yeah.
Did he get a club card? Did he get a club card?
Did he get a club card? Lionel Messi plays from Miami into Miami.
I think I got a Tesco's club card when I was...
That's why people are following him. He's got his name on his car.
You've got a massive week coming up. You've got the premiere of your film, which is going unbelievably well, and I'm there. Wright is there. You don't do premieres, Roy?
When is it? No.
It's the third, yeah.
I didn't want to take the attention away from you. I didn't want to take the attention away from you.
He's always invited, Keenan.
Yeah.
But
Apart from dinner in Qatar.
I invited you.
Yeah.
It was him who made the decision.
I
don't hold grudges.
By the way, I told him to invite you. He said he won't fancy you.
Yeah. 3 weeks I was there.
Just talk to us about the film and why you've chosen to do it now.
You know what, I had a plan when I retired to do a documentary about my life at some point. And even back then I was thinking, okay, the perfect time to do it would be like 10 years after I retired. So that was kind of the plan when I retired. And it all just came together. It felt the right moment to do it. At some point I knew that I was gonna do it or have to do it, but it had to feel right. And in all honesty, you know, to have something like this that my kids can look back on, that my parents can look back on, all my friends and teammates that I've had over the years, and everyone that is in there has meant something to me, you know, on a different
Are you in it, Roy?
level.
I'm in it, yeah. 10 seconds, did I get 10 seconds? I was happy to do it, I want to get that out there.
Bex, what's it like, because like, I'm looking forward to seeing it myself, what's it like looking back on you now, looking back at what happened like with the 98 and how you got through that?
To be honest, there was a lot of emotions that went with, you know, the filming that I've done over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I probably did about 45, 50 hours of filming, which I didn't expect to do it, you know, because obviously we've all seen the Michael Jordan documentary, and he does 2 interviews. And that was my idea of that's what I was going to do, and that was going to all be used as, you know, all archive.
Yes.
But then it changed with Fisher Stevens, the director. All of a sudden, we did one interview, and he was like, "Okay, this is different. We need to do it in this way." So, but like the range of emotions were quite unbelievable. From obviously my career, but then my family, you know, the kids, my parents, you know, all of that. It was kind of a lot of emotions, and then, you know, going through it, there's so much happened in my career, and not all good. You know, in '98, obviously it was a tough time for me, but to get through that, you know, it was even tougher. But it didn't feel tough at the time because I had the right people around me. I had a manager that looked after me, a team that looked after me, and teammates that every time I stepped out onto the pitch, I knew that they had my back no matter what. So it didn't matter what else was going on and being said about me outside of Manchester United. Didn't really matter because all I cared about was my teammates and the team.
But when you talk about Manchester United, you've got a couple of players now, a situation maybe with Sancho right now, especially Harry Maguire the last couple of weeks where people are saying the attention, the criticism, the stick's gone over the top, it's gone too far. I mean, nothing can sort of match what happened there in '98 after that World Cup. You know, so this was going on when we were players. It's not something just new, is it?
No, and I think, you know, a few of us went through it, you know, and it always seemed to be, you know, a United player at the time. You know, obviously I went through it, Phil went through it, you know, a couple of lads went through it over the years, but I think, you know, it's a different time now, and in all honesty, I'm happy where it is now because people are able to actually pull people into line about saying certain things because people react different. People can't take it sometimes, and it's, you know, it's a different time. So it was tougher.
Is football like your escape at that point? Because I look at like Harry Maguire and everyone goes, he should just be able to get on with it, but you can feel the pressure in his performance.
The social media side of it, Joe, that really brings it home a lot.
Yeah, but did you feel like just getting back out onto the pitch and playing was your escape?
Well, Manchester United was my escape. You know, because at the end of the day, football was my job, but I'd have done it anyway, even if I weren't being paid to play football. I loved football, so it was an escape. But in all honesty, it was Man United that was my escape from it all. Because, like I said, once I was at training, you know, not talking about Keeney too much, you know, because I don't want to embarrass him. But you know, when you've got someone like Keeney in the team that sets the highest standards, not just at the weekend, but every single day. Every single day there was a standard set. And I always thought that I was, you know, professional, dedicated, but nothing compared to what Keeney was like. Every single day in training, he wanted to win.
We had a good dressing room, though, Bex. No, there was a good dressing room. I always say that. There was some brilliant lads in our dressing room.
It was, but you know, we always talk about the gaffer, you know, setting the right example, but, you know, everyone in our team set that example. And I knew that once I, you know, got back from the World Cup, I knew once I was into that season that I would be protected. And, you know, it showed from literally day one of the first game of the season. I knew, you know, as much stick as I was getting, I didn't care because I was protected by the team.
Yeah.
Just looking at that now, and obviously we all we lived it obviously with you. But did you see a psychologist or anybody at that time? Were you speaking to? You weren't at that time. You couldn't. There wasn't a support system in place, was there, in terms of that sort of net?
No, again, you know, and going back on the era that I grew up in, and we all grew up in, you know, and obviously coming from where I was from a working class family, you know, and if I turned around to my dad at the time and said, Dad, I don't feel great today, can I see a therapist? I need to talk about it. He'd be like, boy, just get on with it. You know, and that's how I was brought up. So no, I didn't see anyone. I felt that I had the right people around me to not see anyone. But I also do think, you know, these days we talk about people being able to talk, and it's a good thing. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I grew up in an era where, you know, my dad would just say, go and get on with it, boy.
Well, Cara just mentioned, what advice would you give to Harry Maguire, who's going through a similar time now where he's getting a lot of criticism every time he plays for England or even for United?
Do you know what? Harry's just got to keep doing what he's doing. At the end of the day, he's got to focus on football, which he does. He's a good lad. He's had a great career. Has the criticism gone too much? I think it has.
I think as well, what else is it? Being a defender, you know, every single game, you know what I mean? As you two can vouch.
You're living in fear.
It wasn't every game, we were all right some games.
You're right, a defensive mindset is you're living in fear of making a mistake.
Yeah, of making a mistake, because when you look at Harry Maguire and some of the stuff, I don't want to take too far down there, but any mistake he makes, it turns into a massive meme. I can't even imagine what that would have been like in '98 when Becks came back from the World Cup. If we had social media, if he's still sitting there.
Yeah. Well, let's have a look at, we've got a post-98 clip. Let's have a look at this.
Still getting booed everywhere he goes, David Beckham. Personally, I think the continuing vendetta against Beckham is quite ridiculous. And oh dear!
Tim Sherwood.
Any time that I got kicked during that season, it was like the team had scored 2 goals.
Beckham! Jesus! Is that Sinton?
Lucky for Becks, he's got players in his team that can flatten people.
Who?
There's going to be trouble here.
Nice one, Keano. Go on, Keano.
You go after him, you're going after all of us.
It's inhumane what he had to put up with. Inhumane. It would have broke everybody. Would have broke probably 99.9% of footballers.
It's David Beckham come through this.
That was
I did, yeah.
How do you function? I don't know. I actually don't know.
Wow.
Gives me goosebumps, that.
I mean, that just takes you back to that moment. And was that the lowest point in your football career?
The free kick.
We were sitting there expecting it to fly in.
It was a low point, but you know, I think we all go through those moments, and you know, that was my turn after the World Cup, but I always talk about that. You know, I did make a mistake, and I was obviously punished for it. But at the end of the day, I think we all make mistakes, and you know, I was thankful though that I had the right people around me to get over it.
You say about low points, we've all been through low points. I don't think there's many of us, you've seen what Harry Maguire's going through, I don't think many of us been as low as that, where you went. Because I remember even in our dressing room, we were talking about how bad it was. Remember the effigies at West Ham and all this stuff, but you know, I don't think that a lot has been to the depths that you've been through. This is why I suppose.
Well, I suppose it was more than just about the football in the end. I think that was the tough part. You know, I had people doorstepping my grandparents' house, and then obviously, you know, I would go out for dinner in London. People would spit at me, or you know, punch the windows when they saw it was me at the light. When I was in London, and that's obviously where I'm from. So, you know, it was tough, but you know, thankfully, like I said, I had good people around me.
Well, let's look at another clip, and this is talking about when you first came to Manchester. I mean, if you were coming through now, obviously, I mean, your football was a high standard, but you would be attacked for the flashness, and you were back then, weren't you, in terms of, you know, even in the dressing room, we'd be like, this kid's a bit flash-like compared to us.
Yeah. To be fair, all of you said it to me. You always used to call me the Flash Cockney. And that was always something that you always said, because you always said that I was more of a United fan than any of you. I used to wear the tracksuits, I used to have the nice boots, But yeah, I grew up really, you know, like I said, I like nice things. I do like nice things. And I suppose, again, that era, people weren't, you know, driving Bentleys into training. And when I bought the Bentley, that was the first time I saw the gaffer looking out the window, and I was like, so I parked it around the corner. But yeah.
But you're having a go with him for being flash. I mean, would you rather have a go for being flash, you know, sponsorship deals, or have a go for looking like
Jesus!
Pony! In more ways than one.
Yeah, but
I'd rather be the flash cockney, would you?
Yeah, but I like the gear. I remember when you came to England.
For that, no?
When you came to England and that, I remember we used to talk about like the Maharishi gear and talk about. I like that, all that sort of stuff. I remember was it the purple?
You could always dress though, right?
Well, to be honest, I don't know what to say. I'll probably quote you on that one day. But the thing is that like I don't know if it's not a London thing as well, but. Maybe seeing that picture of you.
I think it was a London thing.
It's the gear. I was exactly the same. You're the same. You like nice things like that.
I bet he's got a nice pen.
Yeah, he brought an expensive pen in today. You know the one where you press red, green, blue.
It's just interesting because I always thought, to be fair, you were always massively respectful of Bex, even when he left. But actually, it's the type of player that you ordinarily might be a little bit hard on because of the Rolexes, the Bentley, the cars and stuff like that.
Only if a player didn't back it up now.
Yeah, exactly.
I can always sit there and listen, I'm not a dinosaur. We all work with players who had a different taste and would spend their money, but it never bothered me as long as they backed it up. My worry with always any players, if they were doing that and they were spending their money, and again, good luck to them, but if they didn't want coming in training properly and that became the priority, that was always my worry. But I never found it with Bex, so that's why we never fell out.
My problem with Bex is that I was always worried that Bex is spending so much, you got to worry about when you finish.
fair pension. Lump sum.
To be fair, all him and his kid went on about was a pension. You know, Paul Brooks. Remember Paul Brooks?
Yeah.
Paul Brooks used to come up and say, okay. And I turned around to Victoria the other day, I said, I wonder if my pension's still there. I don't know whether I'm still like earning from it or
tax-free as well, I think.
But that's all they went on about. That's all they went on about.
Just talk to us a little bit about how the manager was with you around these types of things. We're going to show a couple of clips in a minute around your haircuts and clothes and stuff like that, where it started to get a little bit tense towards the end. But you were poking him, weren't you, a little bit? Did you know you were poking?
No.
You didn't?
No, not at all. I was just kind of looking at me, calling me on.
A little bit. You were tweaking the tail of the tiger, weren't you?
No, I didn't, because I was just doing it because I wanted to do it. You know, I suppose I knew that it was something that the manager wouldn't agree with, but like Keeney said, as long as I'm turning up for training on time, training and playing at the weekend to the standards, then it wouldn't be a problem. But I think, you know, that's what changed over the years, you know, and then, you know, obviously Cristiano came to the club, was, you know, doing what he was doing, you know, on the pitch and off the pitch, and the gaffer had kind of softened at that point to a certain, you know, to a certain level. But when I was doing it, it was a different time but...
Is it because you come through as a kid? You'd come through from 14, hadn't you, basically?
Maybe, yeah, maybe. But obviously there were certain moments where the gaffer would tell me to do something, and I'm quite stubborn. So, you know, even with my dad sometimes, or my mum, when they would tell me to do things, I wouldn't question it, but I'd be a bit hesitant. And I was the same with the manager. So I suppose at that point when the manager was telling me to do things and I weren't doing them, you know, I suppose it all goes back to when he first asked me to, you know, when we talked about getting an agent, and he told me to go with someone. He wanted me to go with someone, and I didn't. I went with someone else that he didn't agree with. So then obviously that was a tough moment for us, but it's things like that, I suppose, that upset the manager.
That's called power and control, David.
But I look back now, I mean, at the time I thought you were mad at times, because obviously I was living this with you. I had more meetings with the manager about you than I did about myself. Because he would sometimes say, you know, try and get into you around things like agent, around what you were wearing, travelling to London. When I look back now, if you hadn't have done those things, you wouldn't have been where you were today, would you? In terms of sort of like, you know, you think about the global nature of you and what you always wanted to achieve.
I suppose there were some things that obviously got highlighted because obviously once me and Victoria were together, everything that we did were more highlighted than any probably anything that the manager had seen. So obviously, I suppose all he was worried about was, you know, the football side. Nothing else. Well, I'm sure he was worried about me as a person as well, because obviously I'd grown up at the club, and I think he cared about us as players. But I suppose it was, you know, at the end of the day, I wasn't travelling to London as much as the manager thought, but obviously because it.
He thought it was 3, it was 4.
But to be fair, like there's one moment I talk about in the documentary that when I was in Manchester and my phone rang and I picked it up and it was the gaffer and he went, "Beckham, where are you? David, where are you?" And I said, "Boss, I'm in Manchester, just driving past the Trafford Centre." He said, "No, you're not." He said, "You're in Barcelona Airport. My mate sat opposite you." And I was like, "Boss, I'm driving past it." He said, "No, you're not." And then put the phone down.
Oh my God.
So it was things like that happened, but at that point, I think
I'd have drove.
You should have known by the ringtone. When your phone was ringing, you wanted to
I'd have drove straight to his house, because then so that means in his mind he said, right, it's like he's not listening. I'm not in Barcelona. I'm here. I'd have drove straight to his house, knocked the door.
But then, you know, I suppose at that point, I remember Victoria being on tour with the Spice Girls, and they were in Dublin for about 4 or 5 weeks. So I, without obviously telling anyone, I flew over to see Victoria one night because we had a day off the next day.
Ryanair.
I did. I was on Ryanair. So I'm sat in. I'm on the way back to Manchester. It's like 5:30 in the morning. I'm sat in the lounge, just waiting to board. And the gaffer walks in.
You're joking.
On the same flight.
That's unlucky, isn't it?
It was, yeah.
Was
he at the concert as well? Yeah.
No, but how's your luck there?
What a great night.
Did he tell you that you couldn't drive 2 or 3 days before a game? Because I remember reading that, and I was playing, like, I wasn't even semi-professional at the time. So I was like, I can't drive up the motorway 3 days before a game. And I was like, well, I don't know how else I'm getting there, because obviously you might have...
You know, yes, I was married to a Spice Girl, and at that point it was like huge, and you know, it was a massive thing. And obviously the two of us coming together created, I think, an attention that, you know, the manager couldn't. I don't know whether it was that he didn't understand. He just didn't want that attention around the club. And I think that he, you know, over the years, the manager had always made the right decision in his eyes for the team and for the club. You know, for no other reason other than that. And I felt that obviously was, you know, it happened to me in the end. You know, I didn't want to leave Manchester United at the time. You know, we'd just won the league again. But, you know, all of a sudden I get a phone call to be told that United have agreed a deal, and that was the end of it. And, you know, even trying to speak to the manager after that, he didn't want to talk to me. You know, it wasn't that it was out of spite, it was purely, he was on holiday. He didn't want to be contacted. He'd made his decision, and that was the end of it. But I think, you know, it happened notoriously over the years at Manchester United with, you know, Mark Hughes and Kanchelskis and all of these, you know, Ince, you know, all of these great players, you know, getting let go at a time where we felt they were in their prime, but all of a sudden, manager makes a decision, and that's all that matters. So, you know, that was really, but I never felt that I was doing anything that would harm the club. You know, I still loved the club like I did when I was 5 years old.
And it was never an issue in the dressing room, was it? You were talking about your lifestyle and who you were married to, but it never was an issue in the dressing room, was it? We never felt.
Could you imagine if you lot weren't winning?
Negative energy about it.
Could you imagine if you lot weren't winning?
That does help, right? Of course, when you're winning, yeah, but it was never an issue in the dressing room.
No.
But he seems really spicy in respects of, like you say, the training. Always turn up in training, always done the stuff. The same thing I saw when you was with England. I can't understand why he couldn't let it go, Sir Alex.
He wouldn't let things go. I mean, he wouldn't let things sort of brew. Can you ever see, when you look back now, do you ever think of a life where you stay at Manchester United for the whole of your career? Because I know that's what your mum and dad wanted, wasn't it? You know, they were absolutely massive Reds.
It's what I wanted. You know, when I was growing up, I was a United fan, so all I ever wanted to do was play my whole career at United, start there and finish there. But in all honesty, I now look back at it and I think that decision that the manager made actually was the best one for Manchester United, and it was the best decision for me, because I then went on to play for unbelievable clubs with unbelievable players.
I don't think it was the
and
best for United.
things.
I don't know if it was the best for Man United. I think it ends up being brilliant for you and living in a new country and trying something else, but I certainly don't think it was good for the dressing room. And I could say the same when Ince left and these lads. When players go, you do think there was no real logical reason for a player to leave at that time.
Rob, you were in conversation with, it was reported, with Bayern Munich, and you were about to leave. How close were you to leave?
Yeah, very close, yeah. Wish I bloody had. Yeah, and I think that would.
Do you wish you had, though?
I wish I'd gone abroad, yeah.
What about Juventus?
Yeah, I'd agreed a deal. Yeah, my contract was up obviously a couple of times when I'd done my cruise ship and I came back, and I had opportunities to go on, obviously on a free. And yeah, part of me is jealous when I see other lads now going abroad, because it's a great experience for your family, and maybe. But again, I was really happy at United and contented. If I knew that I was going to end it, I look back now, loyalty and all that type of talk with Ferguson. I definitely should have gone abroad and experienced a different league. That's all I ask.
I look back now at your life and you think that you were in Milan, Paris, Madrid, LA.
My life would
that wouldn't have
be
happened.
totally different.
Yeah.
It would be totally different, because I'd have still been living in Manchester. My life would have been completely different. Whereas
You've just been cashing in your pension.
But it's true. I had the opportunity then to play in Spain, learn a new language, a new culture, and then from there, obviously, move to America. And then, obviously, when I moved to America, then I have the opportunity to buy a team. So, and then I go to Milan, then I end my career in Paris. So all of those things, and culturally, it's something that I loved. I love that I experienced playing abroad. And like I said, when I was growing up, I had no intention of leaving Man United, but when it happened, it's probably the best thing that could have happened for my life.
When I look back now, I think there was
even though I didn't want it.
Yeah, I think there was another reason, and obviously Carlos had come to the club, and I think he wasn't having me and you together down that side. We'd played together.
He was the first person to come in and not be happy with
me and
obviously
you. Yeah.
Me and you.
We played for 7 or 8 years together, hadn't we?
Apart from Keane.
Need more of these sweets.
But what I mean is, down that right side, it was like a partnership, and we played together. And I just felt at that point he would either want me in or you in. Ollie would come in
Quite
front.
surprising you got rid of me and not you.
He's on less wages, I tell you.
So let's have a look at this. Where is it? There.
But no one, you're like that. Best man at your wedding, so nobody can know this man better than David Beckham. So we're going to go back to a magazine here in 1996. So I'm going to ask you the questions, and you tell me what you think his answers would be. If the world was to end tomorrow, what would you do with your last day? What did Gary Neville say?
Check his pension.
You've got to remember 96, you're in there.
Yeah.
What would it be?
I suppose play at Old Trafford.
I would sleep all day and just relax. I love relaxing. I guess I'm lazy.
Who's that?
This is the busiest man in football.
Did I say that?
Yes, you said that.
Meet some person.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, this is a good one. Who gets the most attention from girls, you or Phil?
There we go.
I used to get Bexy's knockdowns.
Yeah, I'll tell you what his answer.
What?
I don't know, really. We probably get the same amount as each other. I don't really like it much. Apart from anything else, I've got a girlfriend. I like supporters of football, whatever sex they are, but it's not so great when you're on a night out and girls just sit next to you and stuff. But to be honest, it doesn't happen to me so often.
What is this, by the way?
This is autobiography.
We're getting there.
Oh yeah, what have we got
It's the
here?
United magazine. It's got to be United.
What is it? What magazine is it?
Well, you roomed with
That we did the players' pool.
Use a room.
For a bit.
What annoys you most about your roommate?
About him.
No, what? So he's being asked that, and so you're his
It's got to
roommate.
be how tidy I am and how much I come on the phone to Victoria.
Yes, he's always on the phone. He stays up late as well, which I don't like.
That's 9 o'clock by the way.
I used to have to go and lie in the bath.
And
on his
yeah.
phone.
What?
Who would be your ideal date? What do you think he said? Who did he fancy in the room? Besides you.
Who did Gary fancy?
I want to say the wrong thing.
Is it Baby Spice? I'm trying to think myself.
Baby
Debbie from work. UK advert.
Who was it, Joey?
Like, he's getting this information, he's putting it in. Like I say, I've got a girlfriend, but Princess Diana.
Oh, see?
Yeah.
Classy bloke.
The girl out of Braveheart.
Oh, yeah, his wife that got killed. Yeah, his wife that got killed.
Good shout. Good
And Olivia Newton-John.
Yeah, I mean, seriously.
Quite high level.
I've got a girlfriend, but he is 3.
It's free. So then the next question is, so you're not a Pamela Anderson fan, right? And you've said, no, these models look all right, but they do me head in. What model have you ever spoken to?
The thing is, he could look at someone on telly like Victoria and go and actually marry her. We actually were rooming together in Georgia when you first watched that video of Victoria with the cats. I forgot to say you'll be there.
Yeah.
Black cats.
Was that it?
He was watching the one of Emma Bunton.
Hey?
You? Emma Bunton.
I said I like Baby Spice, but it's never quite worked out. I thought you might
She must have met you.
She must have met me.
That ruled that out straight away, yeah.
Right, your dad's here today. Ted, come on, in you come. Ted, in you come. Come and stand round here.
Oh, Teddy.
I'm going to say sorry for anything he says.
We have to get legals out.
No swearing.
All right, I'll try not to.
Ted, you watched him every single step of the way, and you must be so proud, obviously, now the film's coming out this week. It must be good to reflect upon everything that's happened.
Yeah, it's been an absolutely wonderful career for him. And as a dad, I mean, there aren't many dads that wish their son had a son like him. I mean, he's been brilliant. And his career's been correct.
Where does he get the stubbornness from, Ted?
Obviously from me. But no, he's a good lad.
Just talk to us about, obviously, family, and, you've obviously travelled all around the world, but you're probably more settled now than you've ever been in terms of, obviously, finishing your career.
Yeah, I've always said, and it's like everyone, my family's the most important thing to me. As much as I love football, as much as I've had, obviously, the career that I've had and played for the teams that I've played for, my number one thing is always my family. And every decision that I make is for them. Even doing the documentary, I want them to have something. I want my mum and dad to have something that they can look back on, and it's all in one place. Family's the most important thing to me, but like my dad, my dad talks about, my mum and dad never missed a game. No matter where I was playing, apart from obviously LA, it was a little bit too far from East London for them to travel every weekend. But other than that, they were at every game, every youth team game, every reserve team game, like your mum and dad were. And the community that we had, at that time, in the youth team, it wasn't just us that were friends and teammates, it was our parents as well that all hung out, they all went on holiday together, they all travelled together, and it was a special thing. But the family part for me is the most important thing.
What's your thoughts, Ted, in terms of, obviously, now your football career's finished?
I will say, everybody goes on about Cantona, but this man here,
you're too kind.
No, he means his lads.
But the team wouldn't have won so much if it hadn't been for him, because I've got probably 1,300 videos of David's games and whatever, and England games, but especially Man U. And this man here, he worked his socks off for the team, and it proved, when he got booked against Juventus, he still played like he, was going to play in the final. But it's been incredible. Football to me has been my life, and I've been there for him, and vice versa. But
it's a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you support your kids, and that's what me and his mum have done.
It's a beautiful place to finish, and all the best to you.
Thank you.
With the film, and thank you very much for coming on.
Nice one, Beck.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.